Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone. I am Manu Kashyapa from Advaita Academy. I welcome you all to day 2 of Weekend with Wisdom on Aitareya Upanishad with Sri Shankara Bhashyam by Sri Jaishankar Narayananji. I welcome you, Acharya. Thank you for joining. Viewers, please make use of this wonderful opportunity to learn and ask questions from the Acharya who has been traditionally trained on all these Upanishads and has been teaching for so long. Please make use of this wonderful opportunity from the learnings you get. Acharya, please start your session.
Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvighnam Kurme Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha वांग में मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो में वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य माणी स्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् संदधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ओम शांति शांति शांतिः. So we were looking at the Srishti Prakriya in the first Adhyaya of the Aitareya Upanishad, where the Srishti Prakriya itself is given in a certain order, and it comes in 3 khandas, first khanda, second and third also. Initially, the Loka Srishti is presented, and there we have to assume that the Panchabhuta Srishti has already happened. Then the Lokapala Srishti means starting from Prajapati Virat onwards, all the Devata Srishti, and along with the Devatas, the Indriya Srishti also is presented. Then the Devatas request the Paramatma for a body, for a suitable body. So initially cow, horse body and all is presented, but they are not happy with that. Then the Manushya Sharira itself is presented to them, and then they occupy their respective abodes in the body itself as different indriyas. So with this, one part of the Srishti is over. But then when the Srishti happened, Paramatma also subjected all these Devatas, starting from Prajapati onwards, to Ashana and Pipasa, hunger and thirst. So they have to be provided food now, Annam. So Anna Srishti also was done finally by the Paramatma. Once Annam was created, the Annam started running because it doesn't want to be consumed by the Annadaha, the consumer of the food. And then what happened? The different Avayavas of Prajapati, they are all Devatas, but these organs like speech and eyes and ears, nose, etc., all of them tried to consume that food, but they could not. Okay, and only Apana could actually consume the food. So Apana is special that way because Apana is then called Annayuhu, because Apana is the one who nourishes and gives ayus to everybody by consuming the food. So it has a special name for that. Now after having created everything, it is like an empty fort without a king or a master. So the Srishti is there, then this Paramatma is thinking, if the Indriyas themselves do all their activities themselves, it doesn't, then for whom or who am I then? For whom they are all actually doing their activities? Because any Sanghata or anything which is put together, anything which has been intelligently put together, also we can say, is for the sake of somebody else. So here, this entire Srishti, with all the devatas, the lokas, all are there, but if there is no conscious entity in this, then for whose purpose it will serve? See, from this also we can understand the entire Srishti is all Anatma. Okay, the Chaitanya in the Srishti is nothing but Paramatma alone. That is where this Pravesha Shruti is very, very important. If the Chaitanya is not available in the Srishti, then there will not be any way of even recognizing that Chaitanya also, correct? So that is why here the Upanishad is presenting this. Sa etameva simanam vidarya etaya dvara prapadyata. So initially, in fact, the Paramatma is even thinking, how should I enter? Through the legs or through the head and all that. In fact, in the previous chapter of this Aitareya Aranyaka, the Prana Devata is presented as entering the body through the legs, Prapadam, like that. So, that option is not okay. So, Paramatma has to enter through the head only. So, splitting the head, it has entered. Okay, and then that wherever that Paramatma entered, that place also has special names like Nidritihi because it got split, and also it is called Nandanam because through that the Jiva goes to Brahmaloka and attains Ananda. So it is called Nandanam, source of happiness. It is also called Indrayonihi and Brahmarandhra also. The Indrayonihi Shabda comes in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And then after entering, Tasya Traya Avasatha, Avasathaha, Traya Swapnaha, like this. The Upanishad is saying that there were three abodes for this Jivatma. The three abodes can be considered as the body of the father, mother, and one's own body. That is one way. In fact, we'll see later on in the second chapter also. Or it can be looked upon as the three avastha, all the three states of experience which one goes through. Every individual is going through. And during that period, the waking period, you are supposed to be on your right eye. Okay, Akshini Purushaha, like that, and all. There are references in other Shruti. And during dream, you are in your Antar Manaha, or some people say even Kanta. During dream, you are present in your throat, it seems. And during sleep, you are in your heart. You resolve back into the heart. And in fact, you resolve back into your own nature, which is Paramatma really. And all these three avasthas are nothing but swapna. Why? Because swapna itself is looked upon as an avastha where your waking reality is covered and then you are there in another world, correct? But in reality, all three avasthas are like that because your Swarupa as Paramatma is covered. It is avritam. Okay, there is avarana covering in all three avasthas anyway, because you do not know your reality, the nature of your reality. So all avasthas are like swapna only, they are equally false. In fact, one negates the other. If they are true, they have to be always there. But whatever you eat in the waking, that food is not useful in swapna, correct? If you have eaten fully, then you go to sleep. You can be a beggar in the sleep, struggling for food. So the whatever you ate in the waking is not useful during sleep. And whatever is happening in dream, that again, once you get up, it is all false, you know that. So like this, each of these avasthas actually prove the other is false. So they are all in one way same or similar. So everything is only trayaha swapnaha. And then ayam avasataha, ayam avasataha, ayam avasataha iti. So like this, three times these avasthas are pointed out, or three abodes are pointed out. So this much we saw. Then the important part. So one commentary, or some people consider this iti. Up to this iti, the iti is there because with this the adhyaropa prakaranam is over. See, Brahman as Atma is always taught using the methodology of adhyaropa and apavada. Adhyaropa apavadhabhyam nisprapancham prapanchate. That which cannot be really described or explained, that is explained through deliberate superimposition and negation. By negating, finally what? You superimpose and negate, by that you remove everything, and whatever is left behind is your Swarupa. Okay, that is how the teaching works. So up to this iti, the adhyaropa prakaranam is over, means all the srishti, and then the anupravesha or the pravesha, the entry of Paramatman as Jivatma also is over. So with this, the adhyaropa, the superimposition is over. Then everything will be negated and shown that only Brahman alone is there. Okay, Brahman alone is Satyam. Or another reading is, even this is part of this first sentence here, correct? Sajato bhutani abhivyaikyat kimiha anyam vavadishyat iti. So up to this iti, there is a iti here. Up to this is adhyaropa only, because here sajataha means you can take it as this jivatma, the Paramatma who is now born as this jivatma, or who has become this jivatma, has entered as the jivatma. Bhutani abhivyaikyat. Again, this abhivyaikyat is given two different meanings. Bhashyakara Shankara has given it as vyakarot, means the Paramatma only is now manifesting as all these different beings by being born up as them. The Paramatma is manifest as all these beings. And in this body, Kim Iha Anyam Vavadishat means what? Or Vavadishyat also there is a reading. Meaning wise, it's all almost the same. So, who else is there in this body other than me? Like that, it asks, it seems. Okay, from that, in fact, the meaning of that question or that whatever is said, Vavadishat means to speak loudly. Kim Iha Anyam, who else is there here? Means that shows a certain inquiry, correct? In fact, the abhivyaikyat itself can also be translated as, instead of vyakarot or manifesting, means vyakarot means here exactly what it means is there is a tadatmyam is there. Being the jiva, you identify now with this body mind sense complex. That is what is abhivyaikyat. That's Bhashyakara is saying. But other acharyas are saying abhivyaikyat means what? Abhi, vi, a, kya. Kya is the dhatu. The kya dhatu can come in the meaning of again vichara or knowing and all that. Not in the meaning of know. So abhivyaikyat means the jiva who is born is now actually doing vichara. And then in that vichara, what does he found out? What does he find? There is nobody other than me here. In fact, I am the only one who is the reality, who gives existence to everything which is there here. So he says loudly, Kim Iha Anyam. There is no other, means that question means what? There is nobody else other than me here. So who is there here other than me means what? Only I am the reality. Everything else is mithya. There is nothing else other than me here. So that is the meaning here. So whichever way you take it, then the apavada is there very specifically. Sa etameva purusham brahma. So this is straight Mahavakya. So saha etameva purusham brahma tatamam apashyat idam adarsham iti. There is a pluti also there, 3. Iti, like that we have to extend it for 3 matras. So etameva purusham brahma tatamam. Tatamam word actually it should have been tatatamam. One takara lopa has happened in the Veda. Chandasam it is. So tatatamam means what? Tatam or tata means to pervade. Tatatamam means what? Most pervasive we have to take. Most pervasive Brahman. Okay. So this Purusha is nothing but this or that most pervasive Brahman. It's not separate from this Purusha, correct? Initially also we started Atmava idamagre asit, and that Atma is the one here also now in the body, which has entered the body, same Atma. And now it understands that I am the only one who is there. I am the only one who pervades everything. I am the most pervasive Brahman who is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, whose very existence is the basis for all the objective world I am seeing. Both subject object, they derive their very existence from me alone. I am this limitless conscious being. Now that is seen by this Jiva, who is none other than Paramatma only. So idam adarsham iti means what? This initially this pluti is for vicharartha again. So the jiva is doing this vichara that I am this Brahman, I am seeing that. And then later on what? The pluti itself becomes for happiness. Aho iti. I am the limitless. So it is wonderful. It's a wondrous insight. It shows a certain joy, ananda. What a great bhagyam. I am not this limited, puny individual lacking, suffering. I am the limitless, conscious being who does not lack anything. I am Purnaha. That is the vision. That vision, when it comes, what? There is a great joy. The Pluti also, that iti, that extension, also points out to that fact that you have recognized, and then it is wonderful, that recognition. Then what? The Upanishad is now giving a special name for Brahman, because the Brahman has now known itself as Brahman again after being Jiva. So Tasmad, so Yasmad idam darsham, Tasmad, therefore, what? Idandraha, Nama idandraha vai nama, tam idandram, santam idandra indra ityachakshate parokshena. So therefore, the one who has seen here itself as this Brahman is myself, therefore that Brahman itself is called Idandraha. Draha means the one who has known. Okay. So Idandraha Nama, Havai Nama means it is definitely known as Idandra only. It is to show that it is Prasiddha. When it is repeated like this, Havai and all that, it is showing that this is very well known, that Brahman has a name of Idandra because that Brahman knew here itself this fact. But it is called not as Idandra, even though it is Idandra, Idandram Santam, Indra iti achakshate parokshena. Indirectly we call as Indra. The word Indra, I told you, can mean Parameshwara based on the context. Why it is like that is because normally those who are very respected and all that, we never call them with their names, correct? See, even if we go to see, let us say I go to Sringeri, I see the Acharya, I cannot use the name of the Acharya. Those whom we respect very much, we normally use some other indirect name. Or you go to Kanchi, you don't say the name of the, you don't say Vijayendra Saraswati, I want to see. No. You say, I want to see Periyava. Or you go to Sringeri, you say, I want to see Sannidhanam, Mahasannidhanam and all that. That is how we call. So, those who are highly respected, we never call directly with their names. We always indirectly refer to them. So here also same concept. Even Devas like it like that. They are Paroksha Priyaha. That's what the Upanishad itself will say here. So we refer to them indirectly. Or Indra is the word used. That the Dakara is Lopa. It is removed. It is gone. And then Indraha iti achakshate parokshena. Why? Because Paroksha Priya ivahi devaha, Paroksha Priya ivahi devaha. This is repeated twice to show that this chapter is over. So normally if the same Vakya is repeated twice in oral tradition, it signifies that a particular section or a chapter is coming to an end. So because devas are, they like to be indirect, they like to enjoy everything indirectly. So they also like to be called with indirect names or secret names, Buddha and all that they say in the commentary. So that's how it is. So with this chapter is over. With the Mahavakya also we saw that. Now, Bhashyakara here writes a very big Bhashyam. I don't know whether I have tried to cover as much as possible in a simple manner. And there is a huge discussion also, very, very useful, which brings out the entire crux of Vedanta. So I will try to present that here. So when Bhashyakara is summarizing here, he is summarizing it like this: Jagad Utpatti Sthiti Pralaya Krit Asamsari Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktihi Sarvavit Sarvamidam Jagat Swataha Anyad Vastu Antaram Anupadayeva Akashadikramena Srishtva. Okay, let me not go too much. Basically, what the one which is the cause of this entire world, okay, are the cause for the creation, the sustenance, and pralaya. In fact, in this Upanishad, pralaya has not been talked about. The Srishti and after this Pravesha and all, this Sthiti is understood. But even though pralaya is not mentioned, pralaya is mentioned in other Upanishads, correct? So Janmadhyasya Yataha is the Brahma Sutra also. Yato va imani bhutani jayante ye na jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisamvishanti. Like that, it is there in the Taittiriya Upanishad also. So this is the one cause of the creation, sustenance, and resolution of this Jagat, the world. Jagat itself is a word. Jayate, gachati. It is born, it is gone. That is why it is called Jagat. Everything is impermanent here. So world, and what? He is the creator and sustainer and resolver, and also asamsari, who is not subjected to the life of becoming, who does not take oneself as a limited being. He is Purnaha, Ananda Swarupaha, always happy. That is why always young also. Dakshinamurti is always presented as a youth. Why? Because Ananda Swarupa, always young. Sishyas are all very old. Jivas are old. You have taken so many birth and death and all that. You become old. Because we are subjected to Shad Bhava Vikara. Ishvara is not subjected to any of that. So Asamsari, Sarvajnaha, all knowing. Sarvajnaha here in general, all knowing. Sarvashaktihi, all powerful. Sarvavit also is there. That's why I said Sarvajnaha is in general. Sarvavit means in specific, each and every jivas, whatever sthiti, all that Paramatma knows. Sarvavetritvam we say, that is Sarvavit. Sarvamidam Jagat Swataha Anyad Vastuantram Anupadayeva Akashadikramena Srishtva. So the one who has created all these things, the entire world, without depending on anything else. Understand that. Okay, Vastuantram Anupadaya means without taking help of any other thing or anybody else. So without taking or without the contribution of anything else, Bhagavan has created this whole world starting from Akasha onwards. Akashadi Kramayana Srishtva Swatma Pratibodhanartham Sarvani cha Pranadimat Sharirani Swayam Pravivesha. Also to know oneself, Swatma Pratibodhanartham, to know oneself, this Paramatma only has entered into all the beings. The ones who have prana means all living beings. Pranadimat Sharirani means all living, all the bodies of the living beings. This Paramatma only has entered for knowing oneself. Swayam Pravivesha. Okay, then after that what? Pravishya cha swatmanam. Okay, Pravishya cha swam atmanam yata bhutam idam brahma asmi iti sakshat pratyabudhyata. Having entered, then samsara is there. But due to some punya vasha, you come to a guru, you have interest also in learning and becoming free, and then you know yourself that aham brahmasmi, I am really Brahman, I am not this individual puny limited person. So having known that clearly, directly, sakshat pratyabudhyata, No, and so knows. Having done all these things, this Paramatma only knows itself again as Brahman. Tasmat sayeva sarva sharireshu eka eva atma na anyaha. Therefore, there is only one Paramatma who is the Atma in each and every body, in each and every being. He is the self of all. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Bhagavan also says this in Gita. I am the kshetrajnaha in each and every kshetra. Kshetra, there is body, mind, sense complex. All body, mind, sense complexes, I am the only one. Also later on in the same 13th chapter, Bhagavan even gives the example of the sun. Yata prakashayatyekaha krishnam lokam imam ravihi. Like that he says. Only one Ravi is there. But that Ravi, that sun alone is shining everywhere in this world, correct? At least in our solar system, we have to say. Like that, there is only one Paramatma, one Atma, which is lighting up all the sentient beings. There is nobody else. This is what he summarizes like this. Now, based on this, a whole discussion starts now. Let us see that, how much of that we can see. Okay, then what? Anyopi, so even others, all the whoever has known, they have known this fact. Even those who do not know, they also have to know this. What do I have to know? They have to know Sama Atma Brahma Asmi Ityevam Vidyat. So I have to know this Brahman as myself. This Brahman alone is me. He is myself. Like that, one has to know in this manner. Atma va idam eka vagre asit. Like this Upanishad starts, and then it has ended as Brahma tatamam. So from all these things, we know that everybody, every jiva has to know this fact that Aham Brahmasmi. That is the purpose of life itself. Okay. Now the question comes. What is the question? How can the all-pervasive, who is present everywhere, enter by splitting the head like an ant entering a hole? Like this, the Purva Bakshi is asking now. Okay, this point I even said before also. So the point or what is conveyed by this Pravesha is nothing but Bhagavan is available. It is like saying the space has entered the pot space. Space is anyway there everywhere. But anyway, this question is asked by the Purva Pakshi. So what does the Siddhanti say now? In fact, Bhashyakara is written a very interesting Bhashya here. He actually toys with the Purva Pakshi here. He says, whatever you have asked is a very Ati Alpam Idam, he says. It is very insignificant question when so many other questions also can be asked here, he says. So, Bahuja Atra Choditavyam. Whatever you have asked is very insignificant. Then he himself lists all the things. So he says, see, it was said that Akaranaha Sannikshata means what? Being the one without any organs. This Paramatma visualize, correct? Sa Ikshata, that's how it starts. But Paramatma did not create anything at that time. Paramatma did not have any organs, any Indriya, any Karana. How did this happen? You should have asked. Then without any other material help, he created this world. Anupadaya Kinchit Lokan Asirjata. Without any material, he created this entire world, all these worlds. How? Then what? From his, again, he did Ikshanam, tapas and all that, correct? Jnanamayam tapaha, we said. This visualization. And from that, what emerged? This Virat with mouth emerged, like even a chicken is hatching from an egg. And his mouth parted, and then what? Devatas like Agni also emerged from the mouth. Like this, it is said, how is all this possible? Not only this, Devatas being subjected to hunger and thirst, and then they pray for their bodies. How did they pray? How did they go and talk to Bhagavan if they did not have anyway the body or Indriyas and all that? Then Paramatma is presenting to them cows, horse body and all that. And then finally the human body, and then they enter into that. That also is weird. Okay. Finally what? The food also is created for all these Devatas and Indriyas. And then the food started running. Srishta annasya palayanam. And then what? Indriyas like Vag and all trying to eat the food. How is it possible? Speech, how can speech eat the food? It is trying to grab the food means what? Does it make any sense? So he says all these things are on par with the splitting and entering. Etat sarvam Sima Vidarana Pravesha Samameva. It is all similar to splitting your head and entering only. So how many questions are there? So whatever you have asked is only one amongst all these things. So what is the answer for all this? So before that, the Puru Pakshi is now very happy. What he says then, let all these be rejected as untenable. He says, Astu tarhi sarvam eva idam anupapannam. Okay, so now you have made my job easy. You have presented all these untenable things. So let us totally reject your explanation and all that. Just take it as some story as part of a karma. No, Bhashyakara says no, that's not the point here. What is the intention of the Shruti here? The intention is to teach the self alone. Okay. Because self-knowledge alone has phalam. All other things are only aiding in that. Okay. So all other stories are only methodologies for teaching this self. So there is no defect, he says. So atra atma avabodhana matrasya vivakshitatvat, he says. So the intention of the Shruti is to teach this atma alone. Rest of the things are all arthavada. Arthavada means here they have to be taken as some stories or some praise and all that. Figuratively, you have to take and try to understand and associate it with the main subject topic, subject matter. So there is no dosha in all these things. In fact, Shruti does not have any tatparya in the Srishti Prakarana itself. In creation, it has no commitment, let us say. It is not commit. That is why in different Upanishads they say the creation is presented differently. Because creation itself does, by knowing how the creation happened, you are not gaining anything. That's what Bhashyakara will say next. Okay. Or he says you can give another explanation. What is that? Since it is all totally illogical, untenable and all that, it is all Maya. It is all only magic. Here Maya is magic, not the Maya Shakti or anything. Maya vi vadva. It is like a magician has created a magic which is not really there, but you are still perceiving it and all that, correct? So he says the all-knowing, all-powerful Deva, the great magician, did all these, he says. And the stories are there for what? For easy understanding. Even in worldly affairs, we tell stories to explain certain things, correct? Through a story, if you convey something, it is easy to comprehend. Therefore, all these stories are told. Otherwise, only like a Mayavi, only this whole creation is there. Everything is Maya. It's all only appearance. We are not denying that it is an appearance. It appears. But if you analyze it, in reality, even scientifically, I said everything becomes 99% space. Then what is it that we are seeing as all these different objects? So it is all Maya only. So knowing the stories about creation, etc., do not lead to any direct results. That's what I told you. There is no phala for that. Nahi srishti akhyayikadi parijnanat kinchit phalam ishyate. There is no phala in knowing all this srishti prakriya by itself. But if the srishti prakriya helps you to understand the srishti is mithya, and through that you understand yourself as Brahman, then it is useful. Okay, so Bhashyakara, what does he say? Only Atma Jnanam alone has phalam. It leads to Amritatvam. So it is well known from all Upanishads that the knowledge of the nature of oneself as the limitless one or limitless oneness, correct? Aikatmya Swarupa Pariknyana tu Amritatvam phalam Sarva Upanishad Prasiddham, he says. So it is Prasiddha, it is well known, popular in all Upanishads that knowing oneself alone as the limitless, one crosses all sorrow, one becomes immortal. This is there even in, there is a story in Chandogya Upanishad also. Narada goes to Sanat Kumara and then he gives a huge list. I know all the Vedas, I know this Vidya, Rasa Vidya, so many other Vidyas he is listing out. And after saying all that, he says, I am still in sorrow, aham shochami. Then he says, I have heard that Atma with Shokam Tarati, the one who knows oneself crosses all sorrow. So please teach me that, like that he is asking. So Atma Jnanam alone relieves you from all suffering, because suffering itself is not in Atma. In fact, my Guruji used to always say, this is a very simple thing to say, but it's not very easy for people to get it. So everybody says, I know I am in sorrow, therefore I am subjected to sorrow, correct? I know I am in sorrow, I am sad, I know that. That is normal logic. The Vedantic logic is completely opposite. I know I am in sorrow, therefore I am not subjected to sorrow. In fact, sorrow is not my dharma, because it's an object of my knowledge. Anything I know, I am not that. That is the simple Vedantic logic. You are the eternal subject, you are the conscious being to whom everything becomes evident. Whatever is becoming evident to you is not you, correct? This mouse is not me, because I know this mouse. There is no confusion here. But as soon as it comes to this body, I know this body, but still I take it as myself. That is the tragedy. That is the adhyasa. Anyonya adhyasa is there from there onwards. It's a locus of error. Annamaya onwards it starts. Correct? So the Vedantic logic is what? I know, therefore I am not that. I know sorrow means you are not sorrowful. You are actually Ananda Swarupa. That is the Vedanta teaching. It's easy to say. In fact, it's easy also in one way to understand. Nothing great. But somehow this insight does not stick with people because of all the impressions and all that. It's subtle also. Because you have to know yourself but not as an object. That is the whole complication with Vedanta. In fact, that fact only will come out later in the Purvapaksha Siddhanta also. We'll see that. So, Bhashyakara also says the same is revealed in Smritis like Bhagavad Gita. So, he is quoting what? Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyat swavinashyantam yah pashyati sa pashyati. Like that it is there in the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter. So the one who sees this Paramatma in everything, as one say, the Paramatma is there equally in everything. And he is the one who is what? Vinashyatsu, amongst the ones which are dying, which are getting destroyed, correct? Those which are subjected to Vinasha, destruction, amongst them he is the indestructible, the invariable consciousness which is there always in every cognition. Paramatma is that, the indestructible amongst all these destroying, destructible things. Vinashyatsu, avinashyantam, yah pashyati sa pashyati. The one who sees that is the one who sees the reality, who attains immortality. Samam pashyan hi sarvatra, samavasthitam ishwaram, nahi nastyatmanatmanam. Like that also it continues. Even the next verse also it says, having seen Ishvara equally everywhere, what is the result of that? Nahi nastyatmanatmanam. This person does not do violence to oneself. How can anybody do violence to oneself? There is a question asked, in fact, there also in the Bhashya. So Bhashyakara says, those who are ignorant, they are really doing himsa to themselves only. Because they think that they are subjected to space-time. They are limited. They will die. All these things are himsa only on oneself. You take yourself as a mortal and then you keep dying. Again born, again death. That is all himsa towards oneself. It is violence towards oneself. But the jnani does not take himself as a mortal. There is no question of any mortality. Even space-time is in me. I am not subjected to space-time. I am this Atma, conscious being who is limitless, in whom space-time is there. That is the vision of the Jnani. So the Jnani is perfectly happy, doesn't have any problem with whatever is happening in this Srishti. Okay, now the Purvapakshi comes. Purvapakshi says there are three types of Atma. What are you talking about, all this oneness and all that? Nanu Trayaha Atmanaha. Okay, who are these three? The doer, enjoyer, samsari individual is one, he says. So, bhokta, karta, samsari, jivaha, ekaha. The individual jiva, one who takes oneself as limited, therefore he is having all sorts of problems. Okay, that is samsari. He is the doer, enjoyer. Then the Lord, all-knowing creator of the world, conscious self. That is the second. Ishvaraha, Sarvajnaha, Jagataha, Karta, Dvitiyaha, Chetanaha, Atma, Avagamyate. Okay. And then what? Third, Upanishad also is revealing that there is a Nirguna Brahman, pure consciousness. It is revealing through all these words. Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidwan. That which is not reachable through words or even mind. Mind cannot reach, mind cannot objectify it, words cannot denote it, because it's not the meaning of any one word. It's not an object of your mind. And it is not this, not anything this you say, it is not that. It's not an object, basically. Neti neti. Like this, through all these Shastra Vakyas, whatever is prasiddha, whatever is well known, this Upanishadam Purushaha is the third. Okay. And then what the Purvapakshi says, all these three Atmas are distinct from each other. They are not the same. So, evam ete trayaha atmanaha anyonya vilakshanaha. They are all distinct from each other. So, where are you? What are you saying? There is only one Atma. So, he is asking, then how can one know that this self is only one without a second and is not a samsari? How can I know that? You are saying there is one self, but I see there are three different distinct selves are there, are three types of selves, because individual Atmas are many. So, tatra katam eka eva Atma advitiyaha asamsari iti jnatum shakyate. How can we know that? This is the question. Then Bhashyakara does not directly answer. Okay, so he now asks a counter question. Through that, he is trying to actually lead this person to knowledge. Okay, so he is asking, who is this jiva individual you are talking about? How do you even know this jiva is there? He is asking that. You say there is jiva, karta, bhokta, and all that. How do you know that there is jiva? Tell me. No. Okay, so tatra jivaha eva tavat katham jnayate. How is the individual jiva even known to you? So now he says, what? Don't we all know? Is he not known as hearer, thinker, seer, teacher? Whatever all these activities are happening. Perceiver, knower. So nanu evam jnayate shrota, manta, drashta, adeshta, aghoshta. Aghoshta means making some sounds which are not words. Okay. And all that we are calling out, correct? That is all aghoshta. Vijnata, prajnata, iti. So all these activities are happening. And who is the one who is doing that? That is the jiva. From that we can infer, he is saying. Then Bhashyakara is raising a very fundamental question here. He says, is it not contradictory that one who is known through the activities like hearing is being revealed as the one who thinks without being an object of thought, one who knows without being an object of knowledge? What he is pointing out is there are Shruti Vakyas are there. Okay. Amato Manta, Aviknyato Vijnata, like this, it's all in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So this Atma is pointed out as the one who is a thinker, but that Atma itself is not an object of any thought. Then how can you know this Atma based on this activity? Because this Atma is never an object of any of these activities, any of the verb, because verb, transitive, intransitive and all we say, but a transitive verb has an object, correct? Object of action. So here the Upanishad itself is presenting this Atma as not an object subjected to any of these activities or actions, but one who is doing that action, one who thinks without being an object of thought. Correct? Amato manta, avijñato vijñata. So it is contradictory what you are saying. From the activity, how will we then know? We cannot know it as an object of any action. That's what Bhashyakara is pointing out. So now the Purvapakshi says, true, if it will be a contradiction if the jiva is known through direct perception, he says. Directly as an object of some activity, the jiva we never know. You can say that then what about the other people with whom we are interacting and all that? We only see the bodies, correct? Nobody has objectified any other consciousness. Consciousness has never been objectified. What you are seeing is other bodies. Even from that, we cannot even infer the mind. Even scientists, great scientists, they cannot even come to a conclusion whether there is something called mind is there or not. Only body we are seeing. Other bodies we are seeing. Sometimes the bodies are sentient. Other times the bodies are insentient. It dies, then it decays. So what is the nature of that body? How do you know? Okay. So what is that? So this person is now giving an answer. He says, I agree that we cannot directly perceive the Jivatma like we are perceiving our own Sukha Dukha and all that, correct? But we can infer, that is his argument now. Okay. Satyam Vipratishiddham yedi pratyakshena nyayeta sukhadivat, but it is not known directly. Jiva is known inferentially as indicated by the activities like hearing, etc. He says. Nyayate tu Shravanadi Lingena. Lingam means to do inference you require some indication, correct? Like there is smoke. By seeing the smoke only we directly perceive. Then we infer that there is a fire. So smoke is the linga for knowing the fire. Like that here, this hearing, all these activities which are taking place like hearing, thinking, etc. Based on that we infer that there has to be a jiva. So where is the contradiction in this, he is asking. No, Bhashyakara doesn't leave. He says, how is jiva known inferentially also? Through the indications like hearing, etc. You tell me, what is the inference you are doing? Because he says inference also is not possible. Bhashyakara is trying to give some reasons for that. So he says, Nanu Shravanadi Lingena api katham nyayate. Katham nyayate. How do you know? Through these indicators like hearing, thinking, etc. All these activities. Because he says, for when the self is engaged in hearing a sound, when the self is hearing, it is only hearer, correct? It is only engaged as hearer. At that time, it's not thinking or doing something else or seeing. So when you are focusing on hearing something, you are only the hearer. At that time, you are not the thinker. And when you are thinking, you are only thinking. You don't hear anything. In fact, that is a problem. In fact, many times your wife is calling you, you are absorbed in something else thinking, and then once she comes near you and shouts at you, then only you recognize, oh, I haven't heard something, and you are afraid also to ask whatever you have not heard, you don't want to show it. Anyway, so you are, while you are thinking, you are the thinker. While you are hearing, you are the hearer. While you are seeing, you are the seer. All these things are there. Okay, so all these activities, again, only point out or they are with reference to the object of hearing and all that, correct? When you hear, what becomes evident? The sound itself becomes evident. When you see some object, whatever form and colors and all becomes evident. When you think, your thoughts become evident to you. So all these activities are with reference to the objects only. From those activities, the subject or the nature of the subject is never revealed by the activities themselves. That is what Bhashyakara is pointing. So how you can do the inference based on these activities? Okay. So thinking means only the object of thought becomes evident. Hearing means sound becomes evident. That being the case, all these activities may reveal the objects, but they are not revealing anything about the subject itself. We are now talking about Atma is the subject. So how can you do inference? That is the question. Now he asks, can't the mind know everything, think of everything like that? Because there is even a Shruti Vakya like that. So keeping that in mind, can't the mind think of everything? He asks. Then Bhashyakara says, Satyam, true. But the mind can think of anything, but there cannot be a thought, any thought without a thinker being there. Okay, so we are now here talking about the thinker, not about an object of thought. That's what he's again trying to point out. So tatapi sarvamapi mantavyam mantaram antarena na mantum shakyam means what? Without the thinker being there, there cannot be any thought or an object of thought. Now this Purvapakshi doesn't understand that straight away. So yeah, so okay, so what? So what is the implication of that? No, Bhashyakara is saying. So he is saying this is what is the implication. What is that? He who is the thinker of all will only be a thinker and not be an object of thought. That's what he's again trying to point out. This is an interesting or important point which many students also don't understand very easily initially, even students of Vedanta. So you have to now focus on this. So the thinker, okay, who can think about any object, you can imagine also, you are a thinker, but you yourself, you are not an object of any thought because you are always the thinker. Even of the thought you think, you are an object, even for that you are the thinker, correct? Because there is no other thinker other than you. So there is no second thinker who can objectify this first thinker, who can think of the first thinker. That's what he says. Nacha dvitiyaha mantuhu manta asti. So what is the further implication of this? There are two ways you can look at it, but both are untenable. That's what Bhashyakara will say. So if the thinker be thinkable by the self, if you say, okay, yada saha atmanam eva mantavyaha, atmana eva mantavyaha, sorry, not atmanam eva. So if you say this thinker has to be thought of as an object by the self only, then there are how many selves are there? Because you are also trying to reveal the self only, correct? So the one who is the thinker and the one who thinks of the thinker, there are two people will be there. The thinker and the one who thinks of that first thinker, one who objectifies that thinker. So then it will become two selves. That is again contradictory or inconsistent. Or you have to say there is only one self which itself objectify itself, self-objectifying. The subject itself becomes the objectifier. The self splits into two, and like a bamboo and all, Bhashyakara gives example, analogy. So the same self will be split into two like a bamboo as thinker and thinkable, or whatever, thought object, I have to say, correct? Object of thought. Thinker and object of the thought are both one and the same, but one thing only is split into two and all that. That is also contradictory. So eka eva atma dvidha mantra mantavyattvena vishakali bhavet vamshadivat. So both are not possible. Ubhayata api anupattihi eva. Both are illogical, both options. So see where we are going now. Also, even if you say self is inferred, the same defect will be there. because then also there has to be an inferring self and an inferred self, like that. So whether you directly perceive or whether you do inference, the same defect of either splitting the self into two, or there has to be two selves and all that. So there is a problem the way you are even defining Jivatma or trying to know the Jivatma. So that is what Bhashyakara is saying. Now the Purvapakshi says, if the self cannot be known through perception or inference, then what are you are talking about? Now he is trying to turn the attention on us. He says, you are only talking about self-knowledge, and you yourself are saying self cannot be known through perception and inference. What is this? Okay. So how can you say then one has to know? There is a Veda Vakya also is there, correct? Sama Atma iti Vidyat. So thus one has to know he is myself. He means here Brahman is myself, like that. And all the Shruti is saying. And also, how can the self be a hearer or thinker then? That is also there. Then who is thinking? Who is hearing? Self only is doing that. So why are you confusing me like all these things? Saying this, you now explain to me. Then Bhashyakara says, see, he says, even here he's just toying with him, but he's trying to lead him. So he says, don't you know that the Upanishad only says that self has the qualities of hearing, etc. But it is also presenting the self as not having these qualities of hearing. Okay. So, nanu shrotritvadi dharmavan atma, ashrotritvadi cha prasiddham atmanah. Kimatra Vishamam Pashyasi is asking, what is the inconsistency you are seeing in this? Atma is presented as both having these qualities of hearing, etc., and also the one who does not have any of these things. In fact, such kind of contradiction is there in many places in Upanishad also. Apparent contradictions, we have to say. So, Anoraniyan, Mahato Mahiyan, like that Kathopanishad says about this Atma. It is smaller than the smallest. Bigger than the biggest means what? It is not an object. Understand that. Only objects and all we can think of are that which is subjected to some measure. Only you can call it as smaller and bigger and all that. Bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest means what? It is not subjected to any measurement. It is not an object itself. Correct? That is what is being pointed out. Even in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan says, see, Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam, Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani Ikshati. No, not that, sorry. He says, Pashyame Yogam Ishwaram and all it comes. Name Nacha Bhutani, Nacha Matstani Bhutani, Pashyame Yogam Ishwaram, he says. Before that only he says, all Bhutanis are there in me only. All Bhutas, all beings are there in me. In the 9th chapter, 3rd verse, I think. Then immediately he says, Nacha Matstani Bhutani, Pashyame Yogam Ishwaram. How can he say that? Immediately he says, nothing is there in me. No, none of these beings are there in me. All the beings are there in me only. Means all mithya. You can only explain it by if you clearly understand what is Satyam Mithya, then this whole thing, whatever your Bhashyakara says, also will become clear to you. Even what Bhagavan says there. Otherwise, you can never explain it. So you can say the pot is in clay. Correct? Pot is in clay. Fine. If you look at it from the standpoint of the pot, you say pot is clay. But if you look at it from the standpoint of the clay, there is only clay, there is no pot. In clayness, even in your understanding of clayness, there is no potness. But in your understanding of a clay pot, there is always clay, correct? Clay is always there. The substance only is there really. Without perceiving the substance, there is no name and form. So it is from which standpoint you are looking at it. Based on that, we can understand it. whether you are looking at it from Mithya standpoint or from Paramarthika, from Satyam, as Satyam. So similarly here also, Atma itself is having all these dharmas, but Atma is presented as having none of these things also. And there is no inconsistency in that, Bhashyakara says. He doesn't explain that, but he says, Kimatra Vishamam Pashyasi. What is the inconsistency you are seeing in this? He asks simply to the Purvapakshi. Okay. So then this person says, he says, no, no, even if you don't see any inconsistency, I am seeing it. How? So he says, see, when the self is a hearer, it is not a thinker. We all know that self is doing only one thing. And we have an explanation also for that. He is going to give that, okay, according to him what it is. So he says, and when it is thinker, it is not a hearer. So from all these things, what do we know? From one standpoint, self is a hearer and thinker, we can say, because it is pakshatvena, we say, means at one point in time, self is a hearer. At some other point in time, self is a thinker. But you cannot then say it is both, correct? Because it is not a thinker all the time or it is not a hearer all the time. So from another standpoint, you have to say it is neither, because when it is neither doing hearing or thinking, it is doing something else, let us say. At that time, these two are not there. You are neither hearing nor seeing, but you are closing your eyes and you are doing something else. So all these different activities are happening with reference to the self. And while each of those activities are happening, we are associating the self with that. That's what he is saying. So in such a case, how can there not be inconsistency, he is asking. Because there is always a doubt now whether the self has the capacity to hear, see, think, etc. or not. Whether it is the nature of the self to hear or not, to think or not, to see or not. Because these things are not there always, they are transient. They come and go. So it is like if you are trying to define something based on an action, you cannot have two contradictory actions at the same time on the same locus, correct? Devadatta cannot be moving. When he is moving, he is the mover. When he is stationary, he is the stander, let us say. But he cannot be both the mover and the stander. Of course, unless he is moving on a train or something which is different. Even then we have to consider Devadatta as moving in the train. Okay. So Devadatta cannot be both moving and stationary at the same time. It is similar in this case also, he is saying. Because self cannot be both the hearer and non-hearer. It cannot be both thinker and not thinker. All these things does not make any sense. There are some inconsistencies. And you are also saying self is having both hearing dharma also, but it doesn't have any of those dharmas also. How can you say that? But we have explanation for that. We are Nayayikas, we are logicians. So our Kanada Maharishi is there, Vaisheshika Maharishi, one who gave the Vaisheshika Darshana. He also is accepting self as a thinker, hearer and all that, based on the fact what it is occasionally having those qualities. Occasionally, even if it has those qualities, we take that self is having those qualities. And how do we then explain why only occasionally the self is having these qualities? Means because at other times the mind is occupied somewhere else. Okay, it depends on whether mind is able to back up the sense organ or not. While it is backing up, then that activity alone is happening and self is able to do that. If the mind is not there, means then but that particular indriya vyavahara will not happen. So mind was occupied with some other object, so it cannot simultaneously be a hearer, seer, smeller and all that. Like that we can say. Whatever it is focusing on, that sense object is cognized. So we give and that also explains why we do not have yugapat at the simultaneously all kinds of knowledge does not take place to us. Our mind has a certain limitation with reference to what we can cognize, what stimulus we can respond to and all that. We can get overwhelmed with too much also. So he says it is proper and logical to state the above, that self is the hearer, thinker and all that, because occasionally these qualities are there in the self. And so what do you lose by accepting this? What do you lose if it is so? That is the question of the Purva Pakshi. Then Bhashyakara says, let it be so. It is logical you are saying, or if it is pleasing you, you consider that. But what I am saying is, it is not the meaning of what the Upanishads are revealing. What the Shruti is revealing, that is not what you are saying. Shruti is revealing something else. That's what Bhashyakara is saying. You people do not give so much importance to Shruti. You do not know the Sampradaya. This is where the Sampradaya is very important. The teaching methodology, the Parampara, Guru Shishya Parampara is there. Only then you will get the correct teaching. There are great people, Patanjali, Kanada, Gautama, all these are rishis, we say. But even their own thinking can have fallacies. If they do not go by what the Shruti says and then invent something by themselves, we cannot accept that. We are very clear. Okay. So Bhashyakara says, this is not what the Shruti is revealing. Then he asks, how can you say that is it not revealed by the Shruti that the self is the hearer, thinker, etc.? Means Bhashyakara says no. Because the Upanishad says self is not a hearer, thinker and all that. Upanishad says that also. Okay, na shrota, na mantya, manta ityadi, vachanat he says. So in many places in Upanishad it is revealed like that. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself it is there. But then now this Purva Pakshi is asking, but what is, did you not desire that self is a hearer or thinker and all that, even if it is occasionally there? But still, I thought you wanted to establish that self is a hearer, thinker, and all that. Is it not so? He is asking. Bhashyakara says, no, I'm not trying to establish what you are saying. That occasionally self becomes a hearer, occasionally it becomes a thinker, and all that. That's not what I'm trying to say, or that is not what the Upanishad is revealing. In fact, for us, the self is eternally the hearer. The hearing capacity of the self never leaves it. Why? Because the Upanishad itself says that nahi shrotuhu shrutehe viparilopaha vidyate, nahi drashtuhu drishtehe viparilopaha vidyate avinashitvat. All these statements are there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This portion of the Brihadaranyaka is very beautiful. It's also very similar to what Kenopanishad says also. In Kenopanishad also, what do we say? How the self is revealed in the Kenopanishad. Shrotrasya shrotram, manaso manoyate, vachoha vacham, sahu pranasya pranaha, chakshusha chakshur atimuchya dhiraha, pretyasman lokat amrita bhavanti. So this self is known as the hearer of hearing, seer of sight, thinker of thought, or thinker of mind itself, or mind of the mind. Ear of the ear, eye of the eye, mind of the mind, prana of the prana, like that. From that, what do we understand? That also has to be explained correctly. So that's what now Bhashyakara is trying to point out here. All these capabilities are inherent in the self. Whether those activities are happening or not is a different thing. The activities happening depends on the indriya coming into contact with that object and all that. That is temporary. But this capacity as a conscious being, only to the self everything is becoming evident, correct? Even whether you hear or not, that is evident to the self. Whether you see or not, that is evident to the self. Whether you are thinking or not, that is evident to the self. That is the conscious being you are. Is that clear? So its capability to hear is always there. It is the alupta drikana, we say. It never closes its eye. Always, everything is only becoming evident to this self as the conscious being. It never, because consciousness is its very nature. It can never leave. It's not a quality to come and go. Correct? It is its very nature. So self is the eternal hearer, thinker, and all that. So he now says, if self is eternal, hearing is there in self, or hearing, seeing, and all that. If you accept that, then there will be two problems. What are they? Then there will be simultaneous origin of all kinds of knowledge. Okay, that is contradicted by experience, he says. We are not having all kinds of knowledge taking place at the same time to us. So it is a contradiction. Also, further, it will imply that there will not be any ignorance at all, because if all knowledge is taking place all the time, there cannot be any ignorance in the self. But ignorance also we have as an individual. Also, I know many things, I don't know many things. So both ignorance is there, and simultaneously all knowledge is not taking place. So how can you say that eternally self is a hearer, seer, smeller, thinker and all that? That is not acceptable. Both these problems will be there. Then Bhashyakara says, no, neither of these defects are there really, because we have to understand what the Upanishad is revealing properly. Because since according to the Upanishad, the self can become the hearer, etc., due to its inherent conscious nature. That is the important thing. That is why it is called the ear of the ear, sight of the, or seer of the sight, hearer of the hearing and all that, or ear of the ear, eye of the eye and all that. Why? Because the very capability of the eye to see is coming from the self only. The eye functions as eye only in the presence of the self, the conscious being. Otherwise, the eyes cannot function. Because in the Kena Upanishad also, original question is what? Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha, kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha, kene shitam vacham imam vadanti, chakshushrotram kaudevo yunakti. So who is the Deva, the effulgent being who is impelling all these mind and indriyas and prana to function as they are functioning? That is the question. Then the answer for that is not a direct answer. It is saying Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, like that. The ear of the ear, mind of the mind, like that the answer is given. That means that is the conscious being only is pointed out like that, because the conscious being is yourself. It cannot be pointed out like an object. The difficulty in self-knowledge is you have to know the subject, the nature of the subject, and you cannot objectify that. Our problem is we are used to knowing everything as an object. Even black hole, you objectify in your mind in some manner. Abstract things also we objectify it in our mind at least, although it is not tangible. Even intangible things we objectify and know. But what about the subject who can never be objectified? That also, if you try to objectify and know, you will never know correctly. That is why Upanishad itself says, Nedam edidam upasate. Anything you know as this, as an object, that is not yourself. That is not Bhagavan also, in fact. The problem with all bhaktas also is the same thing. They want to see everything shankam, chakram and all that. You reduce the Bhagavan into some object. By making Bhagavan into an object, you can objectify and worship, not a problem. We are not saying you should not have bhakti or anything. But by making Bhagavan as an object of your knowledge or object of your meditation, Bhagavan also has become limited. That is why we say it is Aparam Brahma. The word Aparam Brahma is translated as inferior Brahman and all that. It looks very weird to me. It's not really like inferior or superior or anything. Basically, if you objectify Brahman, if you make Brahman as an object of your meditation, or if you make Brahman an object of anything, any activity, whether of mind or whatever other indriyas, then Brahman becomes limited. Then it cannot be Param Brahma, correct? Param Brahma is the limitless Brahman, which is actually there as yourself, in fact, which cannot be objectified. Because if you objectify something, it will become the meaning of a particular word also. That's why Brahman cannot be the meaning of any one particular word. Why does the Upanishad say Yacho Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasaha? Because if it is the meaning of only one word, then it becomes limited again. It cannot be the meaning of other words. Similarly, it becomes an object of your mind, means then it is limited. But it is the one which is actually making your mind function as mind. It is the one which is actually making your eyes functioning as eyes, your ears functioning as ears. It is always the subject which can never be objectified, or all objects are in it only. The very existence of all the objects, they are all appearing only in this conscious entity, which is limitless, which can never be objectified, which need not be objectified. That is the most important thing. The self need not be objectified because it is self-revealing. If I ask you, are you there? You don't have to do inference. Since I am married, I am there. No, it's not like that. Or I see myself, I see the body, therefore I am there. No. You don't have to use any means of knowledge to know your existence. Because any operation of any means of knowledge implies the knower already, correct? You are sitting there as the knower, the subject. And the subject need not be objectified. So all we do in this self-knowledge is what? Neti neti. We only negate all wrong notions about yourself. You being the eternal subject, you still take yourself as the known object. That is the tragedy of ignorance. You associate yourself with all the known things. This body, mind, sense complex, all their dharmas you take as your own, and then you are crying, I am blind, I am stupid, I am idiot, I don't have enough knowledge, I am suffering. None of these things are your dharma really. It's not your qualities. They are all qualities of the known universe. They are all part of the known universe. You are always the knower. In fact, you are the of the nature of knowing. That is your true nature. That never leaves you. Even all these states, waking, dream, sleep, are all only with reference to the body, mind, sense complex. Atma never undergoes any of these states in reality. It is as it is. It is always the conscious being only. Self-effulgent, self-revealing, full, complete, Purnaha. So, these defects are not there. Okay, let me come back here. Because according to the Upanishads, what? The self can become the hearer due to its inherent conscious nature. The seeing, hearing, etc. to organs like eyes, ears, etc. are indeed impermanent. That we accept. Whatever normal sight and all which is happening with reference to the body, mind, sense complex, they are all impermanent, only temporary, as they depend on the contact between the senses and the objects. When the contact is there, knowledge takes place. When the contact is not there, doesn't take place. But that does not mean self does not have the capacity to know. Self is always having that capability. Its capability never goes away. It is eternal. Because self is eternal, formless, does not have any division or contact with anything, and therefore does not have any temporary qualities which are born due to contact with something and all that. It's not dependent on all those things. So that is why the Shruti says, Nahi drashtuhu drishtehe viparilopaha vidyate avinashitvat. Like this, it's there in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad again. So the seer of sight does not cease. That's how I translate it. The seeing of the seer never ceases because it is indestructible. It is always there. It is its very nature. It's eternally seeing. It's eternally hearing. It is eternally knowing, basically, because it's a conscious being. Its very nature is of consciousness. Whether you know or you do not know, also it is known always. Even ignorance also is known through that only. Knowledge also is known through that only. So the analogy which is given is of the sun. So what do we say? Only through sun's light you even know the sun has been covered, correct? You say the cloud is covering the sun. That is also from only a standpoint, because cloud is so small, it can never really cover the sun or anything. But from where you are standing, cloud is covering the sun. Okay, how did you know the cloud is covering the sun? because of sunlight only, correct? Sun only is revealing even that to you. Like that, both knowledge and ignorance, everything, this consciousness only is revealing all the time. Everything is becoming evident to this consciousness, this conscious being. That is your very nature that never leaves you. So that is what Bhashyakara is pointing here. So in fact, he explicitly says here, there are two sides. So you have to understand now. So evam tarhi dve drishti chakshushaha. Okay, chakshushaha drishti is anitya drishti. Okay. So chakshushaha anitya drishti nitya cha atmanaha. So the atma drishti is eternal. It is always there. It never goes away. The sight of the eyes, they can come and go. In fact, somebody can have sight, then you have timira, cataract and all that, you do not have sight. Even that you know how do you know that you are not seeing, you are not able to see? That also is due to self, the consciousness of self only. Then afterwards you remove that timira, cataract. Now you say, I can see very well. How did you know that? That also is due to the consciousness of self only. So that Atma Chaitanyam, its very nature is such that it has this ability to know. That ability is always there. That is its very nature. That is Nitya. So there are two sides, temporary sight of the eyes, permanent sight of the self, which is the seer of the temporary sight. Okay. So Nitya Atmanaha Drishtihi Bahya Anitya Drishtehe Grahika. So the Anitya Drishti which is there when the Indriya, the eyes come into contact with an object, that itself is grasped, or that itself becomes evident only to this Atma, which is the conscious being, which is you. So the Bahya Drishti can come and go. Upajana Apayat. So Upajana Apaya Apayadi Anitya Dharmavatvat Grahikayaha Atmadrishtehe Tadvat Avabhasatvam Anityatwadi Bhranti Nimittam Lokasya iti Yuktam. Okay, so now he is explaining that the people who are there in the world, but they do not know all these things. Those who are busy with worldly affairs, they do not see the distinction like this. They just see that eyes are able to see sometimes, eyes are not able to see at other times. Okay, the sight of the eyes are anitya. That everybody knows. Anitya dharmatvam is there for these different indriyas, but then they take it as atmas also. So atma drishtehe tadvat avabhasatvam anityatwadi bhranti nimittam, he says. So they are all deluded because they think it is all atmas only. Even this anitya drishti is atma dharma, like that you take that. And then if it is not seeing, you are having problem. I am blind person. Correct? Aham andaha, aham badiraha. All these things are problem there. If the indriya does not function correctly, you take it upon yourself. I am blind, you say. You do not say the eyes are blind. I am able to see that the eyes are blind. That is the reality. But you do not say like that. You say, I am blind. That is the tadatmya. That is the adhyasa which is there. And the removal of this adhyasa, this wrong notion, this mithya jnanam, this is what is called erroneous knowledge. So self-knowledge means we do not, really the Upanishad does not have to reveal the self at all. Understand that. Because self is self-revealing. All Upanishad is trying to do is remove your wrong notions about the self. If the wrong notions about the self are removed, then what? Then your self is there as it is. is always Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma only. That is what the Upanishad also showed you, correct? That is why the Adhyaropa Apavada has been done. Because before all this manifest world, what was there? Self alone is there. How can we understand that self is there without space-time? How can you say? Means even your every night in your sleep also there is no space-time, correct? Understanding existence without space-time is not a big deal. It is part of everyone's experience. I exist, I sleep, or I slept, but there was no consciousness of any space-time. There was no space-time then. So I am without any qualification of space-time or any other qualification. That experience everybody has. So you don't have to have any special experience to understand that. I exist. Existence alone can be there without even space-time. And from that existence alone, Sadvastu in Chandogya it is said. Here it is called Atma because it is not different from yourself. Only everything has come, all the Srishti. But the Srishti which has come, all this Srishti is nothing but Mithya. It's all only name and form. There is no substance in that. Only the Atma alone exists really. Its existence alone is borrowed by all these names and forms. And so, and the same Atma alone is available in each and every individual body also, as the individual also. So the individuality itself is Mithya. That is the biggest thing you have to see. Because all problems are the problems of the individual. In deep sleep, nobody has any problem. Deep sleep is common for everybody, whether you are a king, whether you are a beggar. Okay, deep sleep is common. Sleep experience is the same. There is no taratamya there. But as soon as you wake up as a particular individual, then all the problems of that individual becomes your problem. Whether you wake up in waking or in dream, same thing. But what you have to recognize, individuality itself is transient. It is not permanent. It comes and goes. In waking, you have one individuality. During when you are a child, you had one individuality. As you grow up, your individuality is changing. In dream, you can take up totally a different individuality. In deep sleep, there is no individuality. Then why are you taking this individuality as real and suffering? That is the problem. The very individuality itself is transient. It comes and goes. It is all mithya. The only thing which is satyam is what? You are a conscious being. And the Upanishad adds, you are limitless also. You are a limitless conscious being who is the source of all happiness. You are complete. You do not lack anything. That is your nature. And knowing that you are free of all sorts of suffering, everything, anything which is associated with a limited individual, you are already free of all that because already you are Brahman only. Brahman only created this Mithya Srishti and entered itself here as the individual. So all you have to do is know this truth and get rid of the ignorance. That's all you have to do. So that is the purport of the Upanishad also. Upanishad also is trying to only teach that. So that's what Bhashyakara also is showing here. So let us see whether we have any questions. Okay, even now there are no questions. So we can close it here.
Yes, Acharya, we can close it here. And viewers, in the evening session will be the concluding session of this Weekend with Wisdom. Please do join us. If you have not registered, please register from our website and our social media handles. Acharya, thank you once again for conducting this session.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om